Welcome back to week number 2, Principles of Management. This is Mr. Argueta. So here we are. We are working on a couple of things. I want to make sure that I tell you how last week went, what to expect for this week, and of course, what's coming up for next week. So for those of you who are new to my structure of online classes, it's pretty much the same every week with the exception of a few weeks that you do not have discussions. But that's going to be on the 4th week, which is your midterm week, and then the final week, which of course is your final. So those 2 weeks, you do not have discussions. But let's talk about last week. So 2 things that I want to highlight for you. So interesting enough, we do have a few students that are not from the Northwest Georgia area. These students are joining us from an e-campus platform. I think Jen might be from Coastal Pines. Shout out to you, Jen. Welcome to our class here. And I think we have a couple other ones that might come from other schools throughout the Georgia area. So welcome to all those of you who are joining us throughout the Georgia technical college systems. But this announcement is particularly for those of you in particular that are near the Dalton area, the Junior Achievement Opportunity for midterm and final exemptions. You got to let me know that you're taking advantage of that so I can keep you without getting a 0 on your midterm. I need to know that you've also completed that volunteer work so then I can, basically you won't show up like you didn't do it. That said, if you haven't gotten an opportunity to take a look at the dates and see if you can volunteer, that will be right above week 1 and in your Blackboard. So week 1 went very well. Thank you for all of those that participated in our discussion. Thank you for the replies to this video or my video last week. I take about a week to read through all the discussions. So I do read every single discussion, so it's not like it's something done automatically. And we have, I'm trying to see here, it doesn't show me, but typically we have about 40 to 50 students in each class. So as you can imagine, I try to knock out a few every day and just kind of see, what's going on, get to know you a little better. So it'll take me a little bit to go through it all. So please bear with me. I will be posting grades for the week's discussion a week after because that's how long it takes me to kind of go through it. But last week was great. Well done reading through some of your discussions. I'll be grading them. Make sure that you are replying to this video, creating your own post, and replying or interacting with 2 other students, which technically means you'll have 4 interactions in your discussion to receive a full 100%. Plus, as I mentioned in my first video, content is what's important to me, not so much word count. This is where I know you understand the topics that we are covering. This is how I understand that you are able to have an educated discussion surrounding business management. I'm old, but I am aware that people on an online platform are able to use their resources to find answers to questions. And I get that. The real world is designed that way. But where you are actually having a meaningful interaction, that's your discussion. That's what the real world is like. So please, please, please do not prompt a artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, or Gemini to answer a discussion. That's not going to help you. You will be zeroed out. I will not accept plagiarism, and I will not accept artificial intelligence as a method for discussion. This has to be your thoughts. This is your perspective. So I get using things to correct your grammar, to let your sentence structure flow better. Totally with you. But it has to be your ideas, your thoughts, your personalized touch to it. Okay. That said, I'll be reading through your introduction and well done. And then this week, week number 2, we go into a couple things: shaping culture and mastering ethics and decision making. So I enjoy reading this topic because it really makes you think and consider how you're making decisions, especially in a business environment. Ethics is a very interesting topic, and I usually start off with this week by asking the question: is it ever okay to lie? Is it ever okay to tell a lie? And people have strong feelings regarding this. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to tell you yes or no. That's not my place. I want you to explore your ethical perspective. Why do you think that? Why did you come up to a conclusion to say it's never okay to lie, or yes, it's okay to lie in certain situations? Next week, I'll explain my perspective, but I want you to explore yours. Another scenario I bring up to help you sort of analyze why you think or make decisions the way you do. And I am not saying that either way is right or wrong. It's not what this purpose is. This is just why you make the decision, not that it's right or that it's wrong. So please understand there's a very big difference between right and wrong and ethics. Ethics is why you do it, not that it's right or wrong. That's a whole different conversation. That said, the other question that I usually propose to students to get them thinking about their ethical perspective, and you'll read in the chapters, that in chapter 4, that it'll try to break down the ethical environments and perspectives, and the discussion leads to why do you make this decision? Because you read through this through pages 74, 76, and then 82 to 84. It breaks down some decision making. I would encourage you to, if you can, research this a little more to figure out what your perspective is. But my other scenario here is, if you were to, this is the trolley dilemma, the trolley ethical dilemma. And the purpose of this is not to find the correct answer, is to find your answer. And if put in a position, and of course, I pray and I suspect that none of you will ever be in these positions. I get that. The whole purpose is to force you to make a decision so that you can understand why. And I know this feels terrible, but it's done on purpose for you to explore your decision-making process. So in the scenario, you're driving a train, and on the train loses all control to stop, and you're on this track and you're going straight, and you see that you're either going to have to turn left or turn right. And you're looking down the road, and you look to the left and there's a child on the left track. And then you look to your right and there's 10 adults on your right track. Now, I am not suggesting that either one of these decisions are easy or that they're right or wrong. My purpose of the question is for you to explore, why would I take that decision? Why would I go to the one child versus the 10 adults? And I purposely am not going to give you any more information, because the purpose of this is, the more information you have, of course, it would basically change your decision. So if you had no information at all, what decision would you lean towards? Okay, what decision would you go towards based on that? So excited to see what you guys have. I mean, there's a lot involved in this ethical dilemma. I usually, next week, I talk about my perspective, and I talk about who or why I view certain things the way they are. I will also say that it's impossible to subscribe to one ethical perspective. It just depends on the scenario, the people involved, and what is happening. And some of you will be like, I won't be able to make that decision unless I was there. No, you can make that decision. Explore the why you made that decision, why you would make that decision. Thankfully, we won't be in that scenario. Another thing I also mention, I don't do it all the time, but I'll mention the concept of, like, if there was no way to get something for your loved one, your children, your spouse, your family, your mom, your father, your brother, your sibling, someone you deeply care about, and there was no other option but to steal something to be able to feed them or to cure them with some medicine, would you steal in order to do that? And I mean, for the most part, I hear a lot of people say yes. I mean, if I was left to that, there's some people that would be like, no, I would. Stealing is completely wrong. I'll never do it. And then I try to push the envelope and see how far before you say, yes, I guess in that scenario, I will do that, even though normally I would never make that decision. And I understand that. The reason why I say and I push you to that point is for you to explore the reasons behind that. Okay. There's a couple of big outliers, excuse me, that I see people leaning towards. One of them is called deontological mindset, deontological ethics, deontology. So in deontological ethics, we view the concept of like a higher being a higher power sort of dictating or telling us how to behave and how to act. And once again, I am not suggesting there's right or wrong to this. This is just an explanation and understanding of it. And that higher power dictates what's right and what's wrong, and therefore we subscribe to that. Faith-based belief systems are based on this concept. And then sort of the other side of this is called utilitarianism. And in utilitarianism, a utilitarist will look at things from the greater good, or the ends will justify the means towards this. So in sharing my personal experience to this, growing up, of course, I didn't have this understanding. As I grew up, I began to understand the concepts of ethical decision making and how we make decisions. And one of them was my own parents, who came to this country from another country. And for lack of a better word, now the environment today is very heated and very what's the word I'm looking for? Divisive. Is very divided. So it's very difficult to have this conversation in perspective, because back in the time when my parents came to this country, the country wasn't in the turmoil that is in currently. So it was a different conversation back then. So please keep that in mind. But my parents came here technically illegally in the 70s, which wasn't the same environment that we find ourselves in today. But for the lack of a better word, and for simplification purposes, my parents came here to the United States illegally with my siblings. I was the firstborn American. I am your famous, infamous anchor baby in the Argueta family. I was the firstborn American in my entire, both sides of my family, my father's side and my mother's side. So that put me in a very unique perspective to view the world in a very different way. Therefore, going back to our conversation, how could parents, my parents, who were raised and brought us up in a Judeo-Christian, a faith-based environment, how can they make a decision to break the laws of a land to come to this country? And the only way I can explain it to you, and I'm not saying it was right or was wrong, I'm just explaining how they came to this ethical decision. The way I can explain to you is my parents would never break the laws. My parents came to this country. They did everything they could to respect the laws of this country. They've become residents and then became citizens of this country. They lived in this country longer than they've ever lived in their country. They were very young when they came to this country. I was born in this country. Everyone since me has been born in this country, raised in this country. My kids are born in, my wife was born in this country. So for lack of a better word, if they send me back to my parents' homeland, I wouldn't even know how to survive. So that said, how do parents who follow a religious practice, a faith-based Christian practice, make this decision? Well, they used a utilitarian mindset. They came to a point in their lives where they saw their lives being very drastically impacted from their homeland and decided to break a law based on the ends. The end result will justify what they did to get here. In other words, it's going to benefit them at the end of it than it be, staying in their country. And to a certain extent, I would argue that they were right in their decision, because today, I am who I am. I've served my community. I serve my environment. I serve as an educator. I have children that are serving as educators, and we give back, right? So the end result justified the means, even though my parents, in theory, are very deontological. They follow a very, I wouldn't say strict, but they follow a consistent Christian-based lifestyle and would not break the rules, would not break the laws of the land. So something to think about. Next week, we will be talking about some of the stuff talked in chapter 3. No business is in their own closed environment. We all depend on an external environment, on the macro environment of business, the area in which we conduct ourselves. We'll be conducting SWOT analysis. So looking forward to that. But until then, it's cool today. It's a little colder. The storms this weekend, thankfully, didn't affect at least my area as bad as others. I hope that you guys were safe during the storms, and we're starting to get a better weather. So hopefully we get back out there. And I think that covers it all. Guys, have a great week. It's great talking to you, and we will see you next week. Take care. Bye.